Good morning.
Morning, hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I will. My name's Ali Haig, and I am a very dear friend of Angie's, and I work as a full-time home economist.
And who do you do that for?
So I'm freelance, so I've done that for 30 years, and I mainly work for Le Creuset, the cookware company, and I work for BSH, which is Bosch, Neff, Siemens and Gaggenau.
Oh, wow, that's a mouthful to remember.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've known you for years. She's the best cook ever. Am I allowed to call you a cook? Do you get called a cook or a chef when you do what you do?
I get called all sorts, to be honest. I don't mind. I don't
Do
mind.
you
I mean,
define the difference?
well, a home economist is actually the link between the manufacturer and the consumer. So whether you're manufacturing a washing machine, and we work for Procter and Gamble, whether we work for a cookware manufacturer, I used to work for 20 odd years for Waitrose. So then I was the link between the food, and our job is to take the products and educate the consumer in how to use them. So
I
we are
see.
trained to cook, and I did 3 years of college training with a French chef. So, but my love is baking, if I'm honest, because I was brought up in a bakery. So, but that's the role of a home economist.
So tell everybody about the bakery as a kid, because I love it.
So my father was a baker and confectioner. He was going to be a vicar, and after the war, he decided that people needed to eat, so he became a baker. And so I was brought up in a bakery. So before I used to go to school every morning, I would go down to the bakery at 5 o'clock and be given all the manky jobs like cleaning bread tins and things like that. And then I'd get on the bus. Went to school over an hour away from where we lived. So I get on the bus, and my breakfast was hot custards and hot sausage rolls
Yum.
every
Very
morning.
nice.
Really healthy diet. And I spent all my time, we had shops as well. So I spent all my time in retail, laying out the shop counter. So if I would lay out the counter, I'd make sure that there was always one left on the row. So my absolute love in life is bread and cake.
So if Alison ever wants to lose weight, she has to not have bread in the house.
Of
Yeah,
course. Yes, that makes
yeah.
sense.
But it's
But you
still
know what?
fine.
It's they're not bad calories, so I'm not bothered.
So your brother still does it?
Yes, my brother has the bakery. So both my parents died when I was quite young, and my brother inherited the bakery. I worked in it till I was 18 and realised actually this is damn hard work, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to bake fresh bread. So I decided to go do home ec. But my mum had been a home economist for Cadbury's. So I'd always, all my life, thought I want to be a demonstrator. So I went off then, and I then didn't have anything really to do with the bakery. And then my brother took it over.
So how old were you when your parents passed away?
Oh God, Ange, don't ask me numbers. Ish, a teenager, young teenager, when my father died, and then my mother died 10 years later.
Gosh, yeah, it's quite young, isn't it?
And my brother died before that, 10 years before that. So it was a catalogue of 10 years of every 10 years. It's like, oh, great. Thanks
What's
a
going to
lot.
happen next? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's quite,
No, they happen in threes.
it's quite a big thing, though, isn't it? And I don't think people understand that, the fact that the passing of a child, brother, a sibling, as well as a son, but also on top of that, you lose your parents when you're young. It's a lot to kind of manage.
It is. It is a lot. And I don't quite know how I did, if I'm honest. But I just did. I think I had the attitude that, well, I know how I did, because they both said to me, please don't waste your life and don't be sorry for us and sad for us. We need you to have the best life you can have. And I
Yeah,
think I just took that message. And as a child, you take a message really clearly. You don't
yeah.
complicate it. That message was dead simple. You make the best of it. And so that's what I did.
And
Oh, I'm doing. Sorry.
do it, I was going to say. But also, your children have gone on into food as well, because Ed's doing food now, isn't he?
So yeah, they've had very eclectic paths, my kids, and for which I have to say I'm very proud, because it's easy to follow the system. It's hard not to follow it. And so Eddie went to school, got his A-levels, didn't get the grades that he needed for uni, the particular uni, and just rang me up and said, I haven't quite got, I mean, they were great grades, they just weren't the ones that he needed for Durham. And so he said, I didn't quite get the grades, so I think I'll just go play golf. And I thought, what? And he said, so, okay. So I said, but do you not think you need to resit them? No, don't even try. I'm not resitting. I said, right, fine. So off he went to play golf that day. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Anyway, so he then decided to go to Australia and went surfing for 3 months. Didn't ring me up. No idea where the hell he was, except when he
Wow.
sent me a message to say, can you book a surfboard to come back on the flight with me? Oh, great, you're okay then. And he came back, and I said, you've got to get a job. So at the time I was at Waitrose, so I got him a job in Waitrose, knowing he wouldn't enjoy it because it was just not enough for him. He's very outdoorsy. Anyway, he did it and he worked hard at it. And he came back, he did that for a while, then said, I will go to uni. So went up to do a year to do a 3-year degree in Newcastle. But he's very good at sport and he got quite badly bullied. And he rang me up one day and he said, I need to quit. He said, I'm going to die. This is just awful. You get
Wow.
pinned down on the bus, you get a bottle of port stuck down your neck, and it's horrid, and I can't do it. So I went up there and to see the dean, and he said, they're adults, it's up to them. And I just thought, whoa.
Wow.
So then he said, I'm going to join the army. I thought, oh, crikey. So anyway, went through that process, but thankfully he didn't. And he then said, actually, I want to play golf and I want to play it well. I want to play it really well. So I said, well, you can do that. You can go play golf and you can go get really well coached, but you've got to do something else. And it was probably the best £1,000 ever spent on him. And he went to Bath College to do a chef's course. And that was it. So he did the chef's course. He did go to uni. He did do golf. He travelled to America. He went to New Zealand playing golf
Wow.
in very beautiful golf courses, had a lovely time, and lockdown happened. So then he had to come home. And actually, the chef's course that he did then has come into play, and that is why he's in food. So he's an outdoor chef. So he cooks all outdoors. His life is about being outside on a beach, not following the rat race, doesn't want to be in London. Money, yes, he needs money to live, but it's not going to drive him because he's seeing what it's doing to a lot of people. So that's what he does. He's
Wow.
actually coming here today.
Is he still doing the big egg thing? Is
Yeah,
it the
yeah,
big,
yeah. He's set his company's called Fade Projects, and he does private catering. He goes to people's houses and teaches them how to use their green eggs. So he'll go for a day and cook. He'll do dinner parties for up to 12 people, and he's met some wonderful people and done some great events. And he's just started out, so he's only been doing it for a year, but he's building it, and with the long-term aim of that being what he starts to do full time. But it's
Fantastic.
quite incredible that he's actually followed me near enough the same, but doing it outside. So
do the Green Egg Company sponsor him in any way? Thanks.
well, I think he gets a discount to buy his green egg.
Right. Okay.
There is a company. There's different companies within the UK do green egg, and one of them, when they get to capacity with their bookings, they send them to him. So they are being very
Nice.
supportive. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
That is good.
Good. Brilliant. And well, obviously, Lissy's your assistant when you do QVC, isn't she?
So yeah. So she is deep down, she truly is an artist, and she needs to
She is.
become that artist. But for a long time she works with me, and she's amazing. She can pre-think me, and when we're working together, people don't know we're mother and daughter. They cannot. It's incredible. I mean, we don't really look alike, in fairness, but
Absolutely not at all.
but no, but they look at it and think, oh my goodness, they are so slick. And actually, I take no credit because you're only ever as good as the person that's prepping for you. And if your prep is good and it's all there, it's my job's the easy bit. So yeah, no, she's a wonderful cook. She's got a very fine palate. We're all quite different. And my husband, absolutely nothing at all. But he loves eating it.
Yeah.
Of
We always
course.
laugh about the fact that John doesn't cook and Dave doesn't cook.
Yeah.
So the two of them, if they were on a desert island, they'd starve to death.
They
Because
would absolutely starve. They just have to find some female to help them.
that's exactly what they would do.
Yeah. No.
So
He
when you
said, "What's?"
sorry, no,
Yeah,
carry on.
you go.
No, I'm not, honestly.
I
I,
was just going
so
to say, his view is, what's the point in cooking when you've got 3 people who can cook very well?
I must admit, I sort of agree with that. I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
Hope you, because you don't do a lot of cooking.
I don't do a lot of cooking either.
Do you cook at all?
A little bit, not much.
Go on, tell me your favourite recipe.
Oh, it's got to be lasagna.
Okay, that's good. That's nice.
That is my favourite thing to cook.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
but he
look forward
gets
to
it
you
all
cooking
out
it
of
for me.
He gets it out of a jar. What are you on
not
about?
always. Not always.
When
Thank
have
you.
And
cooked a white sauce
I
from
do
scratch?
white sauce every time.
From scratch.
White sauce is always done from scratch. I hate the
Really?
stuff from the jar.
Oh.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
can't stand
gloopy
them.
and
Yeah,
jarred food. Well, yeah,
it
we won't
tastes
go there.
horrible. Yeah, but the ragu sauce is quite often out of a jar.
No way.
Yeah,
It's
that's.
the easiest part.
Oh, I agree, but I have done it. I have made it, and I do make it. But yeah, more often than not, I
So,
get
out
out.
of interest, why would you take it out of a jar when you know how to make it?
Just ease, really. It's just a case of
Lazy.
poor. Yeah, literally laziness. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
Pardon?
What's
It's
that?
picking on you, Mike,
No,
already.
it's all right. I don't mind.
She's northern, that's why.
So,
But actually, when I'm teaching cookery, it's really interesting because this week I've been all week doing some masterclasses, and people want to cook. People care what they
mm,
eat, but actually, a lot of the time they're busy. We're all busy,
yeah,
and it's giving people quick, simple ideas. And I've just done a booklet for Le Creuset all about going back to basics, and actually, funnily enough, making a roast chicken, making things, and showing people how it is so easy. And
yeah,
if you've got, if you've got the knowledge, you can do it, and you've got the time to plan it. And people just need to plan. And if they planned a week's menus and had the ingredients there, it's a doddle. It's when you come home, there's no ingredients, you can't be bothered, it's late, da 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 da. And it's all about time management and organisation. But there's a huge problem because so many people, and this is not a dig at you, Mike, but are
Oh,
are living from products that are so heavily processed,
yes, yeah,
and actually there will be a long-term effect of this
hmm
because our bodies do not process chemicals very well. So it's we're on a huge education thing at the minute, but it's hard because so many of them can't cook. We've just launched some new ovens which are amazing. But can you believe this? There's a camera in the oven, so you put your food in, the camera will detect it, and it works out the cooking time and how when it's ready and the temperature for you. Because
Oh, I need
people,
this oven. I need this oven in my
yeah,
he's
life.
doing kitchen. He's doing
I'm
his
doing my
kitchen.
oh
kitchen.
yeah.
Set it up for him,
You
Alison.
should
Yeah,
come to London to the Dem because we do them in London in the showroom,
I
and
would love to.
the purpose of doing it is so people can come and be educated on the features, and then they pick the right oven that cooks for them.
Oh,
But we're
definitely.
having to do it
Put
because
me in.
so many people haven't been taught to cook. And
Yeah.
if you've never been taught to cook, they're opening the oven door all the time. It's like, is it cooked? Is it not? Well, it's not going to cook if you keep opening the door. So it's very interesting how where food is going and how, and lockdown was good from a point of view that a lot of people started baking. They started because they were at home,
Yeah.
but I can see it slipping. It's a slippery slope, and it's there are a cohort of people that still love cooking and will cook, but there's a lot of people in their 30s who do care massively about what they eat. Well, Will does, doesn't he, Ange?
Yeah.
So they care massively, and they're lucky because they have had parents that cook, so they can dip into this. But the people that haven't had that, how the heck do they learn? So
Well, I
the
don't.
oven.
I don't think they do.
Well, that's the problem. But that's why the ovens are having to be so. They're like computers. Well, they are computers. They're complete computers, and they're very clever. But they make cooking so simple. And I admit the ovens at the moment are not. They're quite expensive, of course they are, but they will help to get people back on track.
But I mean, it is preparation. I mean, I'm one of those people, similarly to you, that can rustle something up from the cupboard,
Yes,
even
yeah.
if I haven't been shopping for a month or whatever. I can still rustle something up. But so many people don't have that kind of imagination, do they? It has to be this, and this.
they have to follow the recipe, and if they
Yeah,
don't have the ingredient, but I understand that. I do understand that, but we need to make recipes simple. So we're
yeah, I
trying to
agree.
keep all our recipes to 6 ingredients and things like the other night. I had celery in the fridge. I can't remember now. I had tuna. I had white beans. I had mustard, and I just made a dish from it. And John said to me, "Oh, that's really tasty." And it's. He calls it, if I don't make something nice, he calls it sick pie. And he said in his married life, he's only had it twice. And it will be because I'm stressed or my head's not on it. And you have to give cooking time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No, and I mean, I do go to the fridge and think, right, what we're going to have for tea. I don't ever plan. Very rarely do I
Ever.
plan, unless I've got people coming round
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. But you've got basic ingredients in your
all the
cupboards.
time,
If
all the
you go to
time.
most people's cupboards, they haven't got anything to cook with. I've been at friends'
That's my
houses.
cupboard.
Is that your cupboard? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
never
you
got
see,
anything
then
in.
it's hard. That's
Mm.
hard because I've
I
been to
think,
people at friends' houses and they say, "Oh, can you help me?" I go invited for dinner, but end up cooking dinner, and I look in their
That's
fridge
what
and
Will does
think,
when he comes to my house.
yeah, but it's hard when there's no ingredients.
Yeah.
It's you've got to have eggs and chocolate at least to make a chocolate mousse for pudding. If you haven't got chocolate and eggs, you can't. What the heck? So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's a huge process of education. But when people come to a cookery demonstration, they are inspired because they're physically seeing it. They haven't got to read the recipe. They can eat it at the end. I mean, I did a camembert wreath yesterday, the camembert in the middle and balls of dough around the outside.
That's a
And they loved
touch.
it. And it was so simple. And they've gone home with a recipe. They've also gone home with the right pot to cook it in. And they're inspired and they're all going to send me a picture of when they make it. But it has to be a practical thing, I think, for people to see it.
So I'm going back to that recipe because it's inspired me slightly. So do you cook the camembert with the dough or do you cook
Yes,
it? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
no.
Oh,
So
right.
put the camembert in the
The
middle
middle and then
and
put
put
the
the
dough
dough
around the outside.
balls around the outside.
Yeah, yeah.
And you kind of a good shallow casserole type thing. And then just bake it. And then the people take off a lump of bread and dip it in the camembert.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Sounds
15
lush.
minutes it takes to cook.
I
You've got to
always
obviously make the dough, but
I always remember when we came to dinner at your house. I think it was probably one of the first time, probably 30 odd years ago or more, that we came
yeah.
to your house for dinner and we had prawns in garlic, like king
Did
prawns.
you? I
And
can't remember.
when you remember some foods that don't
Yes,
ever go away from your taste buds, and
yes.
it's even now as I'm talking, it makes my mouth water.
It's
I
funny,
love,
isn't it? Food
yeah,
does evoke memories. It's quite interesting. It's foods are associated. A lot of the time, people say, "Oh, my grandma used to make that. So and
yeah,
so used to make that," and it does evoke memories. And food's a very comforting thing, but it's also a very social thing for people to sit and eat together.
yeah.
And I
Mm.
think when people don't cook and they take it out of the packet, it becomes this processed airline dinner, and it's like it doesn't have the whole conversation around it. So it's yeah, it does do all sorts. We were doing yesterday blind work out people's palates, how good your taste palette is. I don't think I've done this on you actually. I will do.
No, you
So
haven't.
blindfold you, which you probably won't like, but anyway, that's tough. So blindfold you, and then you give them 6 different flavors of fruit gum. So basically, you've taken your vision away. So you're working now with your other senses, and we don't use our other senses when we've got all 5. But when you lose one, the others become more astute, and so you will know if I give you a lime fruit gum by your sight that it's lime because you can see it. So you do it blind and they taste these, and they're all natural. They haven't got anything in them, they're not horrible ones. And it was fascinating because in the last 2 days, I've had 2 girls who got all 6 right. That's never happened.
Wow.
And
Really?
I found that amazing. Have a go at doing it and see if you can get all
Oh, I
6.
will. I will.
But it's really interesting. Some people can't get any, and they
Ah.
they they reckon that's because of COVID. They've lost their taste. They
Or
couldn't
is it
detect.
because they drink and
Or
smoke?
smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the girl. Well, that was my theory, but the girl yesterday, who was great, she's a damn smoker, and she got all
Oh,
6 right. That
how did
Wow.
you
really
do that?
floored me.
Damn it, we better take up smoking.
And I reckon she was cheating. I reckon she could see under the blindfold. No, I don't know. So
I love doing stuff like
Yeah,
that.
me too.
I've got a
yeah.
really sensitive palate, really
Well, try
sensitive.
it. See if you get all
I will.
6.
I will. Which fruit
You,
gums do you use?
you need the ones from Lidl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they have no chemicals. They're all natural flavours and colours.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, you
those are
learn
the ones.
learn something new every day.
Do you
So,
Yeah,
do?
the little ones, the tiny ones.
Coming back to food and being a social, I think also it's that bit about sitting around a table, because we were talking to our grandchildren at the weekend and we were talking about sitting down at the table and just spending time talking, because they're very eager to get down from the table. And
Once
it's
they've
like,
eaten. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, no, 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 we sit here and chat. And then they got it. And then we just sat and chatted for like 25, 30 minutes after we finished our food. But I think that's the other thing. People have lost that time around the table as a family, and that it's almost the debrief of your day, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's also time around the table at work, time around the
Yeah.
table anywhere. People, I mean, we are doing a thing at work called Meet and Eat. So on this particular day, they invite 6 people who come and cook with me for the morning, and they cook lunch for the whole workforce, and
Wow.
everybody then comes down to eat it together. And people will come in on that day. Because they know, and they also have another subject that they talk about, whether it's pensions or I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
But we're really trying to inspire people to come and cook and talk to each other, because they sit at their desks with headphones in. They don't
Yep.
speak to each other, and it's like, what? So we're trying to have other ideas of how to get people to come in. And a kitchen is an interesting place because, as you say, it's a place where people socialize and meet and eat. But our kitchen at work, I can tell you now, I know the life history of nearly every person at work. And I am not a gossip, so it never goes out of there, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
know that. But they feel it's a safe
Yeah.
place. Which I find fascinating, and some of them I know all about their weddings, what they have. And the kitchen is a place where people will relax, and I
Well,
think there's sorry.
it's like you though, in your house. If we come to your house, we tend to spend most of the time in the kitchen. You
All the
come to
time in the
my
kitchen.
house, yeah. You come to
Yeah.
our house, it's exactly. Some people I don't think have ever been in my lounge, and
I
I've
don't think
known them for
I've been
20
it once,
years.
I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only
Do you know
come in
what
it
I'm
because of the
saying?
fire.
Well, if you
Sort
want
of.
anybody to come and talk about mental health, I'm more than happy to come up.
Yeah.
And I'll cook
Yeah.
with you. I'll be happy
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll tell them. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how the kitchen will enable people to just feel a bit more relaxed than being in a very formal office,
Yeah, yeah.
because the world is going nuts, in my opinion, at the minute, and people need some stability, and food, I feel, will bring that. But it's a big task. I mean, Jamie Oliver's tried it. So many people have tried it. Um, and I don't remember years ago, Ange, you remember I did that project in London for Waitrose at a school, and we cooked a whole organic diet, and the control school did the standard school. I don't know what they do, chips, chicken nuggets. And we had a wonderful lady. She was from Jamaica, who was the school cook. So she could cook, which is a
Yeah.
help. And she made these kids their breakfast, their morning snack, their lunch, their afternoon tea, and they had tea at school. And they monitored the behavior and the patterns of the children. And it will be no surprise to you that the children that ate the good diet, everybody peaks when they have something to eat, of course, but the kids that ate the rubbish would go really high and drop fast down off the graph. And these other kids kept going. They're absolutely fine. Their concentration, everything. And she'd make them a homemade scone, or, she wasn't depriving them of anything.
No.
But it went wrong on a Monday because they'd been home,
Yeah.
and at the weekend it all went to pot. So I then I did a session where we invited all the parents or the carers or these children from all sorts of backgrounds to come, and we ran cookery schools at the school for the parents. And I wrote a booklet, not a book, on simple recipes that were cheap to make, that they could make to continue it, and they did it. And once they did it, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but those little projects never get momentum behind them because the finances behind it are so huge to turn that ship. So
Mm.
I don't know how it gets turned, because Jamie Oliver tried big time to do it, because it starts when they're little. If they
Yes.
eat well when they're little. Have you got kids, Mike?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
Not
so
yet.
so
Not yet.
you so you don't have that pleasure of feeding children that don't want to eat.
No, that's it. But it's funny. So I'm a landlord, and whenever I go and do inspections on properties, I always notice that the recycling bins are always full of
Cardboard.
Domino's cardboard, Pizza Hut cardboard, plastic pots from the
I know.
Chinese or the Indian, and
I
it's
know.
funny how you walk down a road that is primarily rental properties. And yes, every bin is the same. Every bin is the same.
If it makes you feel any better, every bin that when I watch people's shopping trolleys, it's the same.
Yeah.
But we were working in London doing a photo shoot, and there was nowhere to eat, and they ordered a Deliveroo. I've never had a Deliveroo in my life because I would never think about it. It just, but it's not against them but I just wouldn't think about it. So this meal arrived, and it was from a well-known branded company whose food I would say, if you go to their restaurant, is quite nice. It was disgusting. It had been made in a big factory. It had no resemblance of what the product should have been. It was very expensive. And I just thought, I am not eating that. There is no goodness in that whatsoever. And I think people just don't understand that what they put in their bodies is the fuel to fuel it. And it's a huge, I don't know, what is it? It's a huge mess because we don't want all that packaging. We've got a huge problem with recycling, so we could do without that anyway.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, we had Domino's delivered as a treat they did it for work for something, not because I couldn't cook for them all. The bill was about 700 quid. I nearly fell off my chair because there was a lot of people. But I just thought, oh, and it stank. It was horrible. But people love it because it's got the flavourings in it, the artificial flavourings that make you crave more.
Yeah. It's
They're
funny,
clever.
as we've been chatting, one of the things that I've thought about in terms of that education piece is I think it's also about educating how to shop.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Because, you go around the shops, you go around your Asda or your Tesco or your Waitrose or whatever,
Yeah.
and the stores have designed them in a certain way for you to buy certain things, as I'm sure you know. And, it's so hard to go and shop and make sure that you buy the good stuff.
But that's a shopping list. I mean, every time, take a shopping list with you.
Yeah, but what happens if you can't find the thing that's on your shopping list?
Or don't be Dave Clark, because he buys 20 packets of biscuits and blah, 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 and I wouldn't buy any of them.
I've got better since I moved house. I can now...
You can't cook, you haven't got a kitchen.
No, but I've got a microwave. And I've started buying these really nice ready meals, but they're very expensive. But they're very tasty. But they you walk around and it's so easy to get distracted by it. So easy.
You're right, and I do hear you because I think it's really hard to buy good fresh vegetables. Really hard, unless you have a good market or a good local store. A lot of the time, the supermarkets, I don't know what's going on, but they certainly don't have the variety anymore that they used to have, and the seasonality seems to have gone all over the shop because you shouldn't be buying strawberries now. It's the completely wrong season. Our bodies don't need strawberries now. They need the nutrients from the seasonal food that's available now. And I think because you're right. And if all you see is a row of vegetables, the same vegetables every day, you get bored. Unless somebody can say to you, okay, take these vegetables and make X, Y, Z. And it is an education piece, but if I don't shop, I will plan a week's menus if I'm organised. I'll shop for them, and then I don't have to think about it again. And then when I come home, I've got the ingredients to make what I'm going to make, and I cook it. But it is, if you're not able to adapt and you need to follow the recipe, it is. I agree with you. It's
hard.
Tricky because if it says you need X and the shop doesn't have X, you're like, oh, I can't do that recipe then.
That's
because
it.
you don't know what to sub it with. Yeah, and that's
I also have the other problem of I'll buy a week's worth of food, but then I want to eat it in 24 hours. So I go and buy whatever it is I buy, and I'm like, I make
I want it.
I make the first recipe, and then I'm like, I'm still a bit hungry. Maybe I should make tomorrow's as well. And that's.
I've never heard of that.
Have you not? Well, that's a problem I have.
But probably because you're not eating enough during the day. I mean, he's just turned up at our house, and it's like, here's your breakfast. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's sometimes it. You miss meals. People miss meals and don't balance what their calorie intake. And
this is it. Yeah.
So therefore, you're hungry at the wrong time of the day, and you're kind of like ravenous rather than just having a normal set meal.
You're probably right. What's your view, Alison, on these companies that provide these boxes that have the ingredients in for you to cook recipes?
I actually think for people, because there's a lot of people who can't cook, I think they have done something very sensible, because it is actually ensuring that you're going to cook it from scratch, but it's providing you all the little ingredients. They're not cheap, I agree with that. But I think they're better than buying something that's a processed meal that's been made with loads of high chemicals in it to process it. I would say one of the best things is frozen food, because frozen
Okay.
food, the freezer does the preserving rather than anything else. So to buy a frozen meal is actually also, if I don't think is bad, if I'm honest. I mean, depends what they are, but some of them are very good. But I don't think they're a bad thing. I think if it's encouraging people to at least cook something, I think it's probably better than nothing at all, if I'm honest. So
I'm
yeah,
s-
I'm not against that.
I'm a bit surprised that the supermarkets haven't done it themselves, whereby you rock up at the supermarket and they go, right, here is a meal in a box for you to
They
cook.
Whole
do, but
Foods
they
do
don't.
it.
Do they?
Yeah, Whole Foods do, but the other
Yeah,
they
the
give you
likes
a
of
ready
Asda
meal.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. But I'd rather be able to go in and walk in and go, right, I'm going to buy that box, and I know that box has got
Should we patent
a
that
meal
now?
in,
Yes.
whatever.
But it's not, that's like a deli, really. You're asking it to be a deli. So you
Yeah,
can go into a
probably.
deli and have either you buy the pasta and you get the sauce and they put it in a pot. So the independents do it. There's a lovely
Mm,
Italian in Chiswick does that. And you can go in and you can say, I'll have that sauce, that vegetable, and they put it in a box for you. So you're looking for an upmarket ready meal, really, is what you're after.
sounds
Which,
like it, yes.
yeah, yeah. But,
No
it's people,
surprise.
but people, you know, people do need to have breakfast. They do need to have lunch. And I always remember I used to do some prep for Mary Berry when she did Dems at Waitrose. And she said, afternoon tea is the most important thing, because you have some breakfast, you have your lunch. It's quite a big gap between
Yeah,
Mm,
lunch and an evening meal.
yeah.
And she said, just a small piece of cake or a small sandwich and a cup of tea at around 3:30 would give people enough energy to just get them through to the next bit, but they don't. So then they get home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, they're starving, and they hit a bag of crisps, they hit
yeah.
biscuits, they hit everything else, and then their meal then becomes, they're not hungry then.
Mm,
But there's a shame factor to doing that, isn't there? Because very often people will, because I always eat around that time, around 3ish.
What
I
time?
always have something at 3 o'clock,
Yeah,
around
yeah.
that. Even if it's a cream cracker or a Rivita and some
Oh, I have a
mustard.
cream slice. Cream
I know,
cracker.
but
I need to come and live with you.
yeah, you'd love it. But a lot of people will kind of shame you about eating. You've had lunch, you've had breakfast,
Oh,
and
really?
now you're going to eat an afternoon. It's that whole psychological thing, isn't it?
Greed?
That
Yeah,
am I being greedy by now having something else and then eating an evening meal? And I think a lot
Really?
of that is linked to eating disorders as well. But
probably. Yeah.
also people saying you are being greedy. You shouldn't have that. Whereas I don't think like that.
Oh, I've never thought like that. But what baffles me is people will sit and eat a whole bag of popcorn or a whole bag of something and not think they've eaten anything because it wasn't a
Yeah,
meal.
yeah. They
Yeah.
forget
Yeah,
calories.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's where I think, to be honest, I think if food is if you know what you've put in it, and I used to say when I taught kids, if you don't recognise a word on the packet, don't eat
don't
it.
have it. Yeah,
And it's a simple. And
It's
I
a good
still
one.
maintain that, because if it says it's got milk in it, yogurt is made from milk. So
yeah,
the only ingredient in yogurt should be milk.
yeah.
So why has it got a list that big on it that's full of other stuff? You need to buy natural yogurt, and then you can add some honey to it. That's fine. You can add some fresh fruit to it. But a yogurt that's got a list of stuff on it is not a yogurt. So it's understanding what they should eat. And a yogurt's always a very good example because it's really straightforward. If you look on the back of a yogurt, if it only says milk, great. If it's got everything else in it, then it's like, well, why? But yeah, it, I don't know how we've lost. Well, I do know how we've lost it because they've taken food tech out of schools.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Well, saying that, Oliver came home at the weekend and said, "Oh, Granny, I've been cooking this at school. I've been cooking that at school."
he's in
And
the school that's got it. Yeah,
yeah, whereas James and Victoria, when they were at school, they did it, but they didn't do a lot.
yeah. Well, my kids didn't cook at all at school, and I just think it's never been valued as a subject. Well,
Yeah.
I know it isn't valued as a subject, because
Yeah.
often people say to me, "Oh, why are you just to cook?" It's like, okay, you're ignorant,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
with it. But actually, but it's such a vital life skill, and
Yeah.
it's one that's really got total. Well, all the not all, but a lot of the home ec rooms went to be computer rooms. That's what they did, and they've never really replaced them. But it's county born, so it's not a given. So, like you say, Oliver's cooking at school, but in some counties they don't do any. When I worked at Waitrose, we used to do uh, every day. We'd have 60 kids in. We didn't charge for it, so it was part of our CSR, and we would take them from year. Did we take reception? We might take reception to year 6, and they came every time, and each time we built on a principle of cooking, and then kids used to come back to Waitrose as holiday jobs and say, "Oh, you taught me to cook," and it's like, oh God, but am I that old? But we did it. Waitrose did it. They were
Yeah.
doing it, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic. But that's a drop in the ocean. So if you're in the county where that was, but the teachers haven't got the skill to teach the kids to cook at school. So unless you've got a primary school teacher who can cook, which some obviously some can, they're not going to entertain it, because it's really stressful
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing, to teach 30 kids how to make scones.
When my kids were young, because we didn't have any money, so we were quite poor, and I don't believe in processed food, so I would choose home cooked food every time. So every weekend, because we couldn't afford to go off to this activity or that activity or whatever, we used to cook. So
Yeah,
we
that was your
cooked.
activity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
our
yeah.
activity. So we would cook. So all of my kids have always cooked at a high level
Yeah.
because of that, because it's sparked an interest. But also, I think it's taking turns as a family. It's realizing that Mike can cook and Alison can cook and I can cook. Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes we don't encourage that. Whereas,
Yeah, and then it falls on one person, and then it is a
exactly.
pain in the neck,
Yeah.
because it's like every day. I mean, some people say to me, "Do you cook when you come home?" And I say, "Yeah, I do actually, having cooked all day." But there are days, don't get me wrong, when I think I
Oh, I
cannot
can't.
face another
Yeah.
bit of food.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Of course. Well,
yeah.
this morning, William's girlfriend came in with dinner for tomorrow night. And she'd been to the gym and she'd been to the butcher's and gone and picked up vegetables and stuff. And she said, "Oh, I'm cooking tomorrow night." And then said, "Do you know how to sous vide?" And I went, "I haven't got a clue. Do not ask me to sous vide a piece of meat. I haven't got a clue." I said, "You'll have to send me instructions." But it's already planned for tomorrow night. Do you know what I'm
That's
saying?
nice.
So,
So
yeah,
it's not your responsibility.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great. I
It's a
love it.
shared responsibility. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
of course, and it should be shared.
And I think that's the thing about family time. And it doesn't matter how your family's represented, whether that's with mum and dad or the kids or your foster parents or
Or
whoever it
friends.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
It is that time together. And we do it to catch up, because obviously Will's is all over the world. So we don't see him from one week to the next. Well, we spend a lot of time together cooking.
We do.
Or
Yeah,
eating.
eating. Yes.
You don't
that's very
cook.
You
true.
eat and cook.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the one.
correct.
Yes,
I can see
exactly
the pattern.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
So
know what? Sometimes it's not worth people who can't cook cooking. If you're hungry and you need to cook, because they make such a mess. It's like, oh God.
yeah.
I enjoy it. I enjoy
Oh, I
feeding
love it.
people.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Oh, I do.
absolutely do.
Yeah. Yeah. Always have done.
Yeah.
The point of cooking is for other people's enjoyment. If I'm on my own and nobody else is here, I will not go to a huge amount of trouble. I'll do some smoked salmon and scrambled egg and do something really simple, or just egg on toast. And to me,
Yeah.
that's equally as nice. And I actually don't mind what people cook for me. Often people say, "We're not inviting you for dinner." It's like, oh, great. But actually, I'm not bothered what they cook. I just want to be in their company.
Yeah.
We
To
went
Totally.
with
have a
some friends the
conversation.
other week who Ange will know. And I don't know how she did it, but she put the rice in the microwave without water and set it on fire. And it's like, what? But that's because that was stressful for her having me there. And the last thing I want is that to happen. That's
Yeah.
not, I'd rather they just gave me a jacket potato that's
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I,
people's
I remember
perception is gone.
I remember that conversation that we had when we first started our friendship, was that you said people, feel really anxious. I've never felt like that around you, but is that because I'm a confident cook, or is that because actually if I burn it, I burn it? I don't care really. It's life.
Yeah, probably a combination of the two, I would think, wouldn't you? But I
Yeah.
also think people expect they should be able to cook like MasterChef. I don't cook like
Mm.
MasterChef.
No.
That's not my style of cooking. And trust me, those guys don't eat like that at home.
No, I
They're
bet.
not cooking that level at home.
Of
And
course not.
sometimes I am 100% actually about home cooking and everyday cooking and inspiring people to cook every single day and just whatever it is, even to make a soup. You show people to make a pea and ham soup. It's like, oh, I didn't know it was that easy.
Yeah.
And it's a lack of knowledge.
Why
So-
don't you write a book?
You keep saying that to me.
I know, because actually it's common sense book, isn't it?
It
Common
is.
sense of cooking.
Well, maybe
Patent
when
that as well.
yeah, maybe.
I like as well that you mentioned earlier about seasonal, fruit and veg, and I'd never thought about that. But actually, having a book that says, "Well, it's now October, so you should eat this,"
Yeah, and
could
give
be,
you some simple ideas. Yeah,
could be
yeah.
really good.
So you need to be eating butternut squash, pumpkin, just to set you on the right track.
Okay,
Plums, pears.
I will get your book on order.
Yeah. We'll pre-order it before it's
Pre-order,
even
that's it.
written.
Yeah, got no pressure.
So, Ali, you obviously do lots of varied and different things. What's the best part of your job, or what's the best thing that you get to do? It sounds like a lot of it is good fun, but what's the best bit in your mind?
For me, the best part is demonstrating to a live audience.
Really?
When I've got an absolute group of consumers. So I'm going out soon, next week, the week after, to Norwich to a dealer's, and they will have invited their customers, and they come for an evening and they sit and watch cookery demonstration, and to be able to give them the knowledge to be able to go away and just, if they're good cooks, to give them some ideas, if they're not cooks, just to inspire them. And I was down in Cornwall actually at the weekend in St Austell, and they had a group of 40 odd people came, and they were lovely because they're hungry to learn, and when people are hungry to learn, they're a great audience. The hardest part of my job is when I talk to a camera all day and I'm not talking to anybody other than the camera. That is hard. Mentally, constantly. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy that, but it's the live audience is the bit that gives you the buzz, without doubt. I do love cooking for people. Like doing, entertaining friends, but actually, from my work's point of view, that's the bit I love the best. I mean, I benchmark test products, I develop recipes, all sorts, but the live audience, and it always has been, is the bit, I started off Demi in church halls to WIs, and that's always been the bit that I've loved. Because people deserve to be given knowledge. And yes, everything is on the internet, but there's nothing like seeing somebody do it to then be able to repeat
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
always like learning that way. It's my
I
favourite
like
way of
learning by
learning.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do it.
QVC I enjoy because it's very different. It's another world in that place doing TV, but I haven't got a live audience.
What is it that you actually do on QVC? Is it demonstrate the products?
Yes, so I demonstrate for Le Creuset on QVC. So whatever product they are selling, I will demonstrate its key features and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Alison's got the best range of Le Creuset dishes.
Really?
It'd be very sad if I hadn't, wouldn't it?
I was going to say, yeah, you
It
need
would.
to, yeah.
It's a sad thing that yesterday I was saying to them, we were talking about Castile, and I said, the sad thing is, people don't realise, yes, I know Le Creuset is expensive, I'm making no excuse for that, but you only ever buy it once and it lasts
Yeah.
your lifetime. And they're a phenomenally good company. So if you have a problem, they will help you. So if you think of a £300 pot, over your lifetime, it costs you pennies per week. How many times do people buy cheap pans that
Very
they
true.
last 2 years? They put them on
Yeah.
landfill. They don't cook properly, etc., etc. And if people just knew, and the message is getting there, buy this one pan and it will cook beautifully. If you can't roast a chicken, stick it in a cast iron pot with a lid on, leave it in the oven for an hour, and it will be beautiful because it's like cooking in a cast iron oven, like in an Aga. And you don't need any cookery skills to do that. You don't need any cookery skills to put all the ingredients in a pot and leave it to slow cook. And so having good cookware makes a huge difference. But it's also about not filling up landfill with cheap, nasty pans. So that's kind of, making people understand that, yes, it's expensive to buy, but it will use less fuel to cook in. It will be cheaper to run it. It will provide beautiful food. It will look stunning on your table. And, they all went away yesterday saying, I realise now that I need just to buy one pan. But
Yeah.
if they had the luxury of spending a day with me, so but not everybody does that. So it's
No. It is hard. I suppose that's what, when you do TV, then people can watch that, can't they?
they can, yeah.
When are you back on the telly?
I'm back on QVC in it's in November. I'm doing I can't remember when it is, I can tell you. I'm actually doing the 2nd at 9 o'clock in the morning of
Well, that's
December.
a nice time.
That's actually December, sorry, not November. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow. That's definitely not.
That's very
yeah,
true.
yeah, that's
Yes.
very true.
So how would people, if people wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
With difficulty.
Yeah, I know. It's just really hard to get hold of.
I want
And
to
she
come on
doesn't
with your
reply.
masterclasses. I want to know how to do this.
So that you would go if you go on the Siemens website, the brand, that's where you book those. So that's how you book the London ones. And they'll just have to email me from my website. That's the easiest thing.
Can you tell people what your website is, please?
Yeah, you're going to ask me that. I don't know.
But you want me to find it?
I can cook, can't I?
Yeah.
We have to do what we're good at, and the rest of it has to just
Can you find
formulate
it?
itself.
Very true. I've just found it. So it's alihaig.co.uk. So alihaigh.co.uk.
And the website is what?
That is the website.
That is the website.
.co.uk.
Okay. Right.
There we go.
So there you are. But yeah, my details are on there. I haven't looked at that website for over a year.
Bless you.
So
thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
My
It's been
pleasure.
fantastic.
Really appreciate it.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, and you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Lots of love. Take care. Yeah, see you soon. Take care.
Bye.